The stars above the Valari capital world burned with cold beauty, but Princess Leora felt no comfort in them anymore. She stood alone on the wide balcony of the Crystal Palace, her hands resting on the smooth railing, her long silver hair moving softly in the night wind. Below her, the city glowed with endless lights, a symbol of power and order. Once, she had loved this view. Tonight, it felt like a lie. Leora had been raised to rule, but not to dominate. From a young age, she believed that strength did not come from fear, but from understanding. While other leaders spoke of conquest and control, she spoke of balance and survival. The galaxy was changing and new species were rising. Humans were among them, young, stubborn, and dangerous in their own way, but also creative and brave. Leora believed they could be allies instead of enemies. That belief was why she was in danger. Earlier that day, the High Council had summoned her without warning. The chamber was vast and cold, with tall pillars and floating lights. The elders sat in a half-circle, their expressions unreadable. Among them were faces she trusted. Some had watched her grow. Some had promised loyalty to her family for generations. Leora entered with calm steps, though her heart felt tight. She already knew something was wrong. "Princess Leora," Elder Suresh said, his voice smooth and sharp at the same time. "You have acted without approval." Leora lifted her chin. "I acted to protect our future." Murmurs spread through the chamber. She explained herself clearly. She spoke of secret talks with human representatives, of shared resources, of avoiding a war that would cost millions of lives on both sides. She did not hide the truth. She believed honesty still mattered here, but as she spoke, she saw it in their eyes. Fear, anger, greed. "You went behind us," another elder said. "You weakened our position." "I strengthened it," Leora replied. "War with humans will drain us. They adapt quickly. They do not break easily." Elder Suresh leaned forward. "That is exactly why they must be crushed before they grow stronger." The words felt like ice cutting into her chest. Leora realized then that this was not a meeting. It was a judgment. They accused her of treason. They said she had endangered the Empire. They claimed she planned to give Valari secrets to humans. None of it was true, but truth did not matter anymore. Power did. Guards entered the chamber. Their armor gleamed, their weapons ready. Leora did not resist. She looked at the elders one last time, searching for doubt, for regret. She found none. "History will remember this," she said quietly, "and it will not be kind to you." Elder Suresh only smiled. They did not execute her. Killing a princess would raise too many questions. Instead, they chose something worse. They stripped her of her title, erased her authority, and declared her dead to the public. Within hours, she was placed into a small escape pod, damaged on purpose, its navigation barely functional. "Exile," Suresh said as the guards forced her inside. "If you survive, you will be nothing." The pod was launched into deep space, far from Valari territory, drifting toward the edges of human-controlled systems. The silence after launch was heavy and endless. Leora tried to stabilize the pod, but the damage was severe. Power systems flickered. Life support struggled. She worked until her hands shook and her vision blurred. Blood ran from a cut on her brow, warm against her cool skin. As hours passed, exhaustion took her. Memories flooded her mind. Her childhood lessons, her mother's voice, the promise she made to protect her people. All of it felt broken now. "I tried," she whispered to the empty pod. The betrayal hurt more than the pain in her body. She had trusted them. She had believed the Empire could change. Now she was alone, drifting between stars that did not care. The pod's warning system gave a weak sound. Oxygen levels were falling. She adjusted what she could, but she knew it would not be enough. If no one found her soon, she would die forgotten, just as the Council wanted. She closed her eyes, not in surrender, but in quiet anger. Somewhere far away, a small human salvage ship moved slowly through a field of broken metal and old satellites. Its sensors were basic, its hull worn. It was not a warship. It was not important. But its path crossed hers by chance. A soft alarm sounded on the ship's bridge. Ethan Brooks frowned and leaned forward in his chair. "That's strange," he muttered. The scanner showed a weak signal, old, damaged, not registered to any known human craft. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. Long salvage runs did that to him. Still, something about the signal felt wrong to ignore. "Probably junk," he said to himself. "But I'll take a look." He adjusted course. Back in the escape pod, Leora felt the power fail completely. Lights died. Only emergency glow remained. Her breathing slowed. Each breath felt heavier than the last. Then, faintly, she sensed movement, a vibration through the hull. Her eyes opened. Another presence. Hope, small and fragile, stirred in her chest. The pod shuddered as it was gently pulled. Magnetic clamps locked on. For the first time since her betrayal, Leora allowed herself to believe she might live. She did not know it yet, but her fall from power was only the beginning. And the arms that would one day give her peace belonged not to her own people, but to a human she had never met. The stars watched in silence as fate changed course. The salvage ship was small and old, its metal skin marked by years of hard travel. Inside, the air smelled faintly of oil and recycled oxygen. Ethan Brooks guided the ship carefully as the damaged escape pod was pulled into the cargo bay. He moved slowly, steady and focused, like someone used to dealing with fragile things. When the clamps locked and the pod stopped shaking, Ethan released a long breath he did not know he was holding. "Let's see what you are," he said quietly. He put on a light pressure suit and stepped into the cargo bay. The pod was not human. Its shape was smooth, almost grown instead of built. Strange symbols were burned into its surface, some of them cracked and faded. Ethan frowned. "Alien tech," he muttered. "Great." Most people would have backed away. Alien pods meant trouble, danger, or death. But Ethan had never been most people. Curiosity and a stubborn sense of right and wrong had guided him all his life, sometimes into bad situations. He carefully opened the pod. The smell of burned circuits and stale air rushed out. Inside, curled against the narrow wall, was a figure he did not expect. She was tall, even sitting. Her skin was pale with a soft silver tone, faintly glowing under the emergency light. Long hair spilled around her shoulders, lighter than moonlight. Her clothes were torn and dark with dried blood. Ethan froze. "Oh, hell," he whispered. She was alive, but barely. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Her face was calm, but pain lines marked her brow. One side of her head was cut. Blood dried against her skin. Ethan's fear faded under a stronger feeling. Concern. "Okay," he said, steadying himself. "You're not dying today. Not if I can help it." He moved quickly but gently, checking her breathing, her pulse. It was weak, but there. He activated a stretcher and carefully lifted her from the pod. She felt lighter than she looked, fragile despite her height. As he carried her toward the med bay, her eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, Leora saw a strange ceiling, harsh white lights, and a face she had never seen before. A human face, rougher than Valari features, darker skin tone, short brown hair, and eyes filled with shock and worry. Fear surged through her. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Only a weak sound came out. "Easy," Ethan said quickly. "Don't try to talk. You're safe, I think." Safe. The word felt unreal. Darkness took her again. Ethan worked for hours. His ship was not built for alien royalty, but basic medicine was still medicine. He cleaned her wounds, sealed the cut on her head, and connected her to oxygen support. His translator software struggled to identify her species, but it gave him enough information to adjust temperature and atmosphere. When he was done, he sat back in his chair, exhausted. "What did you get yourself into, lady?" he murmured. Hours passed. Leora woke slowly. Pain greeted her first, dull and heavy but not sharp. That surprised her. She expected agony or death. Instead, she felt warmth, softness beneath her, steady air filling her lungs. She opened her eyes. The room was small and simple. Metal walls, soft lights, no guards, no council symbols, no chains. A human sat nearby, asleep in a chair, his head tilted to the side, arms crossed. He looked tired, worn, not dangerous. Leora studied him quietly. She had seen humans before on screens and reports. Never this close. Never one who looked so human, imperfect, real. Her movement made a soft sound. Ethan woke at once. "Hey," he said, jumping up. "You're awake." He stopped himself from getting too close. Don't worry. You're on my ship. I'm Ethan. I found your pod drifting. You were hurt pretty bad." Leora swallowed. Her voice came out weak, but clear enough. "You helped me." "Yeah," he said. "Kinda hard not to." She watched his face closely, searching for lies. She found none. "Why?" she asked. Ethan blinked. "Because you needed help." The answer confused her more than any threat. She tried to sit up and winced. Ethan was at her side instantly, placing a steady hand near her shoulder but not touching. "Slow," he said. "You're still healing." Leora nodded and stayed still. "What is your name?" she asked. "Ethan Brooks." She hesitated, then spoke. "I am Leora." He smiled faintly. "Nice to meet you, Leora, even if the situation is weird." A silence fell. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. Leora broke it. "You know I am not human." "Yeah," Ethan said. "Kind of figured that out." "Does that not trouble you?" He shrugged. "A little, but you're not trying to kill me. And you look like you've been through hell. That counts for something." Leora closed her eyes briefly. Emotion pressed against her chest. She pushed it down. "Where am I?" she asked. "Edge of human space," Ethan replied. "Far from major stations. I run salvage jobs, mostly junk and old wrecks. You are alone." "Most of the time." She looked at him again, truly looked. He carried no symbols of rank or power, just a simple jacket, worn boots, and tired eyes. This human had no reason to care about her, yet he did. "My people betrayed me," Leora said suddenly. Ethan did not interrupt. "They cast me out. They wanted me erased, forgotten." "That's rough," he said quietly. She waited for judgment. It did not come. "You can stay here," Ethan said after a moment. "At least until you're strong enough to decide what to do next." "You risk yourself by helping me." "Yeah," he admitted, "but I've done worse for less." A small, unexpected laugh escaped her. It surprised them both. Over the next days, Leora recovered slowly. Ethan brought her food adapted to her biology, checked her wounds, and gave her space when she needed silence. He never asked questions she did not offer answers to. She learned small things about him. He grew up on a mining colony. He left corporate work after refusing to follow orders that hurt civilians. Now he lived free, but lonely. Ethan learned things too. That Leora had once been important, that she carried herself with quiet grace even in weakness. That when she looked out the small window at the stars, her eyes filled with both longing and sorrow. One evening, the ship drifted quietly through open space. Leora stood beside the viewport, steady on her feet for the first time. "You should have left me," she said softly. "It would have been safer." Ethan shook his head. "Maybe, but I didn't." She turned to him. Humans are strange. He smiled. Yeah, we get that a lot. For the first time since her exile, Leora felt something she thought she had lost forever. Not power, not pride, but the simple comfort of not being alone. Days passed slowly on the small salvage ship as it drifted between stars. The engines hummed softly, a constant sound that filled the silence. For Leora, time felt strange. She was used to busy halls, endless voices, and the weight of command. Here, there was only space, metal walls, and one human who moved quietly through his routines. Her body healed faster than Ethan expected. Valari biology was strong, built for survival. Still, the wounds inside her were deeper than the ones on her skin. She spent long hours staring out of the viewport, watching stars slide past like distant memories. Sometimes Ethan joined her, sometimes he stayed away, giving her space. He seemed to understand when she needed silence. One evening, as the ship passed through a thin dust cloud, the lights dimmed slightly. Ethan adjusted the systems, then glanced toward Leora. She was sitting at the small table, her hands wrapped around a warm drink he had made for her. "Ship's fine," he said. "Just old." "Like scars," Leora replied softly. Ethan paused. "Yeah, like scars." She looked up at him. "May I ask you something?" "Sure. Why do you travel alone?" He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Easier that way. No one to disappoint. No one to lose." Leora felt the words settle deep inside her. "My council said I disappointed them," she said. "That I weakened the Empire." Ethan did not speak, so she continued. "They were afraid," Leora said. "Not of humans, of change, of losing control. I saw it too late." Her voice shook just a little. "They smiled at me," she said. "They praised my compassion in public, then they condemned me in private." Ethan pushed himself off the wall and sat across from her. "Betrayal cuts the deepest," he said, "because it comes from people you trusted." Leora nodded. Memories flooded her mind, standing in the council chamber. Familiar faces turned cold. Guards stepping forward while elders looked away. "I believed I could protect my people," she said. "Instead, I gave my enemies the chance to destroy me." "That doesn't make you weak," Ethan said. She looked at him sharply. "It got me exiled." "It makes you human," he corrected, then stopped. "Or, close enough." A small smile touched her lips. That night, Leora dreamed. She stood again in the council chamber, but this time the floor cracked beneath her feet. She fell, falling endlessly, voices echoing above her. Traitor, failure, disgrace. She woke with a sharp breath, her hands clenched. Ethan was there almost instantly, drawn by the sound. "Nightmare," he said gently. She nodded, unable to speak. He hesitated, then placed a hand on the edge of her bed, not touching her, just close. "You're not there anymore," he said. "You're safe. For now." Leora's breathing slowed. She closed her eyes again, not to sleep, but to steady herself. As days turned into weeks, a fragile routine formed. Leora helped with simple tasks, learning human systems. She found them inefficient, but clever. Ethan showed her how to repair damaged panels, how to read sensor data, how to adjust shields. She admired how humans solved problems. They did not seek perfection. They adapted. They improvised. When something broke, they did not mourn it. They fixed it or worked around it. Yet danger crept closer. One day, the ship's sensors picked up a faint signal, Valari in origin. Ethan stiffened as the alert sounded. "That's not junk." Leora felt her blood run cold. She recognized the frequency instantly. "They are searching," she said. "For me." Ethan looked at her. "How bad is it?" "If they find me," she said slowly, "they will not let me live." Ethan exhaled. "Then we don't let them find you." He altered course, pushing the engines harder than usual. The ship protested, metal groaning. "You could leave me," Leora said. "You owe me nothing." Ethan did not look back. "Yeah, not happening." The Valari signal faded after several tense hours, but the fear remained. Leora realized then that her presence endangered him. That night, she stood alone in the cargo bay, staring at the empty space where her escape pod had once been. She pressed a hand to the cool wall. "I bring only trouble," she whispered. Ethan's voice came from behind her. "You bring truth. That's what scares powerful people." She turned to face him. "If they come again, you may die." "I know," he said. "Why accept that risk?" He met her gaze. "Because leaving you would be worse." Something in his words broke the final wall inside her. Leora sank down onto a crate, her strength leaving her all at once. Her shoulders shook as she tried to hold herself together, but the pain she had carried for so long finally spilled free. Ethan moved without thinking. He knelt in front of her, unsure what to do, then slowly wrapped his arms around her. Leora froze. No one had touched her like this since her childhood, not in comfort, not without expectation. Then she leaned into him. The tears came quietly at first, then harder. She pressed her face against his shoulder, her fingers gripping his jacket. All the grief, the anger, the shame poured out without words. Ethan held her, steady and warm. He did not speak. He did not pull away. Time lost meaning. When the storm inside her finally passed, Leora pulled back slightly. Her eyes were wet, her face calm but tired. "I am sorry," she said. "Don't be," Ethan replied. "Everyone needs somewhere to fall." She studied him, really studied him. This human with no throne, no army, no title. Yet he had given her something the Empire never did. Choice. After that night, something between them changed. Not romance, not yet. But trust deepened. They moved around each other more easily. Shared meals, shared silence. Leora began to tell him more about her past, about her mother, who ruled with kindness, about her father, lost in a border war, about the burden of leadership placed on her too young. Ethan shared his own story in pieces. How a powerful corporation hired him to maintain ships used to strip resources from poor worlds. How he discovered the harm they caused. How he refused to stay silent. How he was labeled difficult and discarded. "They erased me without killing me," he said. "Guess we have that in common." Leora nodded. Exile comes in many forms. Another Valari signal appeared days later, closer this time, stronger. Ethan's hands moved fast over the controls. "We can't outrun them forever." Leora stood beside him, her expression hardening. "Then we must be smarter." She guided him through Valari sensor blind spots, old trade routes, forgotten debris fields. Places she knew from old maps now abandoned. The ship slipped into a dense field of wreckage from an ancient battle. Twisted hulls and broken weapons drifted silently. The Valari signal faded. Ethan let out a shaky laugh. "Remind me never to play chess with you." Leora allowed herself a small smile. "Power is not only force, it is knowledge." As the danger passed, Leora felt something new growing inside her. Not fear, resolve. Her people had betrayed her, but they had not destroyed her. And as she stood beside a human who chose to stand with her, she understood something important. She was no longer alone in the galaxy. And the next time the council came for her, she would not face them as a broken princess drifting in space. She would face them as someone who had learned the true meaning of strength. The silence after escaping the wreckage field did not last long. Space was wide, but danger followed quietly, like a shadow that never fully disappeared. Leora stood near the main console, watching the sensor screen with focused eyes. The fear she once felt had changed. It was still there, but it no longer ruled her. Ethan noticed the change. She stood straighter now. Her voice was calm. Her movements were sure. She was no longer just surviving. She was thinking ahead. "They will not stop," Leora said. "The council cannot allow me to live freely." Ethan nodded. "Figured as much." "If they capture me," she continued, "they will say I confessed. They will rewrite everything." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Then we don't let them control the story." Leora turned toward him. "Humans think differently." "Yeah," he said. "We're good at making noise when someone tries to bury the truth." They could not stay hidden forever. The ship needed repairs. Fuel was low. Supplies were running out. Drifting alone was no longer an option. Ethan set a course toward a small human outpost near the edge of controlled space. It was not a major station, just a trade hub and repair point, mostly ignored by larger powers. Leora watched the stars stretch as they entered faster travel. "If we go there," she said, "others will see me." "That's kind of the point," Ethan replied. "Hiding helps them. Visibility helps you." The outpost came into view hours later, a cluster of metal structures connected by glowing bridges. Ships of many sizes moved slowly around it. No warships, no heavy weapons. As they docked, Leora felt a tightness in her chest. Stepping into public space again felt like stepping onto a battlefield without armor. Ethan noticed her hesitation. "You don't have to leave the ship," he said. She shook her head. "I will not hide anymore." They stepped onto the station together. Humans stared, some with curiosity, some with caution, few with fear. Leora felt every gaze, but she did not lower her head. A human officer approached them. She wore a simple uniform, her hair pulled back, her eyes sharp but not hostile. "I'm Claire Harris," she said. "Station security. We picked up an unusual arrival notice." Ethan gestured toward Leora. "Yeah, that'd be us." Claire studied Leora for a long moment. "You're Valari." "I am," Leora replied calmly. "That could be a problem," Claire said honestly. "Your people aren't exactly friendly with us." "Neither am I," Leora said. "Anymore." Something in her tone made Claire pause. "Come with me," Claire said. "Let's talk somewhere quiet." They were led into a small meeting room. Another human joined them. A man with grease-stained hands and a tired smile. "This is Lucas Morgan," Claire said. "Engineer. He listens better than he talks." Lucas nodded. "Usually." Leora told them everything. She spoke of the council, the secret talks, the false charges, the exile, the hunt. She did not beg. She did not accuse. She simply told the truth. Ethan watched the humans carefully as she spoke. Claire's jaw tightened. Lucas's hands clenched. "They tried to erase you," Lucas said when she finished. "Yes," Leora replied. "Quietly." Claire leaned back. "Do you have proof?" Leora hesitated, then reached into a small device she carried close to her body. She activated it. The room filled with recorded voices, council members arguing, threatening, planning, speaking openly about removing her before she weakened their control. The silence afterward was heavy. "That's bad," Lucas said. Claire nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's very bad." "If this goes public," Ethan said, "what happens?" Claire looked at him. "The Valeri Council loses control of the story. They'll deny it, threaten, maybe even attack." "Humans will stand aside," Leora said quietly. "You have no reason to protect me." Claire looked at her. "You came here for peace. They punished you for it. That makes this our problem too." Leora felt something warm tighten in her chest. The recordings were shared carefully. First with trusted human leaders, then with independent networks, then across open channels where truth was harder to silence. The reaction was swift. Questions spread across the galaxy. Accusations followed. Other species began to speak about Volari aggression and manipulation. Old wounds reopened. The council responded with anger. Volari ships appeared near the outpost 2 days later. They did not attack. Not yet. They demanded Leora's return. "They want to take you quietly," Claire said, "before things get worse." Leora stood tall. "If I go with them, the truth dies." Ethan stepped beside her. "Then you're not going anywhere." The outpost prepared for defense. It was not built for war, but humans were fast learners. Ships repositioned, shields powered up, emergency signals were sent. Leora watched it all with mixed emotions. She never wanted this. She never wanted humans in danger because of her. "This is my fault," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "No, this is what standing up looks like." The Volari commander opened a channel. His image filled the screen. Cold eyes, familiar face. "Princess Leora," he said, "come home. This ends now." "I have no home with you," she replied. "Only chains." "Humans will die for your pride," the commander said. "No," Leora said firmly. "They stand because you showed them who you are." The channel cut. The Volari ships advanced. Humans did not fire first. They broadcast the recordings instead. Every ship, every channel, every open network. The council's words echoed across space. The Volari fleet slowed. Some ships broke formation. The commander's voice returned, strained. "This is manipulation." "It is truth," Leora replied, "and it is stronger than fear." Minutes stretched into hours. Finally, the Volari ships turned away. Not all, but enough. The threat passed, for now. Inside the station, relief washed over everyone. Cheers echoed through halls that had expected destruction. Leora stood still, overwhelmed. Ethan approached her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "They did not win." "No," he said. "They really didn't." News continued to spread. Pressure built. Allies questioned the Volari Council. Trade halted. Support weakened. For the first time, the council faced consequences. Leora was offered protection, status, a chance to speak before interstellar groups. She listened, but she did not rush. One evening, she stood with Ethan on the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before them. "They want me back," she said. "Not the council, the people, some of them." Ethan looked at her. "What do you want?" She was quiet for a long time. "I want a future built on honesty," she said. "Not fear." She turned to him. "And I want to choose it myself." Ethan smiled softly. "Sounds human to me." Leora smiled in return. The galaxy had shifted, not because of fleets or weapons, but because one betrayed princess refused to disappear, and one human refused to look away. The galaxy was changing. Word of the Volari Council's corruption had spread, shaking the Empire's power from core to rim. Trade routes that once flowed freely were now paused. Diplomats questioned allegiances. Even planets far from the capital whispered about the betrayal of their leaders. Leora watched it all from the observation deck of the human outpost, her hands resting lightly on the railing. The stars stretched infinitely before her, silent witnesses to her journey. She had survived betrayal, exile, and danger. Now she had a choice. Ethan stood beside her, quiet as always, letting her thoughts settle. He had learned that the princess did not need constant words of reassurance. Sometimes she only needed presence, steady and unwavering. For weeks, they had prepared for whatever the council might try next. Alliances had shifted. The humans were careful, but firm. Leora had learned that their resilience was something her people could not always match. Humans did not serve tradition blindly. They served justice and conscience. A message arrived unexpectedly, encoded but traceable to Volari officials. Claire Harris handed it to Leora personally. "It's from your people," she said. or at least the ones who still care. Leora opened the message carefully. It was formal, short, and cautious. They offered her the throne back. They begged her return, claiming the council had been misled by fear and ambition. They promised reforms, honesty, and power restored to her name. Yet the words felt hollow. She read and reread them, her silver eyes thoughtful. The council had manipulated, betrayed, and tried to erase her. Why would they suddenly offer her everything back? Ethan noticed her hesitation. "You don't have to answer them," he said softly. "Not now. Not ever if you don't want to." Leora looked at him, a small, tired smile on her lips. "I've spent my life serving them, and what did it bring me? Exile, betrayal, pain." She turned back to the stars. "Power is empty when trust is gone." The days that followed were tense. Valari emissaries visited cautiously, testing boundaries. Humans guarded every interaction. Leora found herself speaking for her people in ways she had never expected. She gave interviews, met with diplomats, and quietly influenced decisions behind closed doors. Her strength was no longer in titles or armies, but in knowledge and courage. Each time she spoke truth to a crowd or council, she felt a piece of herself return, not the lost princess, but the woman who refused to be erased. Ethan worked alongside her every step. Together they navigated meetings, threats, and negotiations. He remained her anchor, calm and steady, even when her emotions ran high. She had begun to realize something she had never felt before. Trust could be rebuilt. Slowly, carefully, but it required courage and willingness. Ethan had chosen to trust her when it would have been easier to walk away. Now she wanted to do the same for him. One quiet evening, after a long day of negotiations, Leora walked to the observation deck alone. Ethan followed, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He handed her one, and she accepted it with a nod. They stood in silence, looking out at the swirling colors of a distant nebula. "Do you ever think about going home?" Ethan asked gently. "Or what that even means anymore?" "Home is complicated," Leora admitted. "My people, they are still my people, but they are not the same as before. And neither am I." Ethan looked at her, eyes soft. "Maybe home isn't a place. Maybe it's who you choose to be with." Leora turned toward him, her silver eyes catching the glow from the nebula. For the first time in years, she felt the full weight of her choices, and yet a lightness she had not known. The galaxy had tried to break her, to erase her, and it had failed. She could choose, finally, how to live her life. "You are brave," she said quietly. "Not because you fight battles, but because you stay." "Staying isn't always brave," he replied with a small grin. "Sometimes it's stubborn. But yeah, I guess it counts." She smiled. The first real soft smile in a long while. She reached for his hand. It was warm, steady, human. Something tangible in a universe that had so often been uncertain. Weeks passed. The Valari Council, weakened by exposure and internal dissent, began to fall apart. Reformers rose, but Leora chose not to return immediately. She had tasted freedom, and she knew that power without trust was still chains. She worked instead as an ambassador, guiding her people toward honesty, peace, and alliance with humans. Her efforts were quiet but relentless. Slowly, the empire began to change. Through it all, Ethan remained at her side, not as a protector, though he had saved her countless times, but as an equal partner. Their relationship deepened naturally, built on shared experiences, understanding, and respect. Moments of levity broke tension, small jokes in the middle of diplomatic meetings, shared meals in the quiet of the outpost, and late nights under the stars when the galaxy seemed calm. Leora began to understand that love did not need grandeur. It could be simple, steady, and grounding. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, Leora and Ethan walked through the observation deck in silence. The stars shimmered like scattered gems across endless darkness. "Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if I had never been betrayed?" she asked softly. Ethan glanced at her. "Maybe, but then we wouldn't be here. And honestly, I like where we are now." She laughed lightly. "Even after everything?" "Especially after everything," he said. "We earned this. Together." Leora's gaze returned to the stars. "Together," she repeated. The word carried weight, hope, and promise. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but she no longer faced it alone. She had found allies, friends, and something deeper, someone who had seen her fall and stayed. As weeks turned into months, Leora's presence became a symbol of hope. Humans respected her courage. Valari reformers listened to her guidance. Her people began to question old hierarchies, to value truth over fear. Slowly, the shadow of betrayal lifted. She was not just surviving anymore. She was shaping the future. One quiet night after repairs to the outpost were complete, Ethan led her to the edge of the station, where a small shuttle waited. "Where are we going?" Leora asked. "Somewhere quiet," Ethan replied. "Just us." She smiled faintly, trusting him completely. They boarded the shuttle, leaving the lights and hum of the station behind. Through the viewport, the galaxy stretched endlessly, stars like tiny lanterns scattered across black velvet. "This feels different," Leora said. "Good different or bad different?" Ethan asked. "Good," she said without hesitation. "Peaceful, free." They drifted in silence for a while, no need for words. Then Ethan reached for her hand again, and she took it, warm, steady, and reassuring. "I am not going back," she said softly. "Not to the council, not to what I was. This is who I am now." Ethan nodded. "And I am here, wherever you go." She rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the weight of the past fall away. Betrayal, exile, fear. They were gone, or at least held at bay. She was alive, whole, and free. As the shuttle moved through the stars, Leora thought of the future, not as a princess defined by the expectations of others, but as a woman who had survived everything and chosen her path. She would guide her people with wisdom, build alliances with humans, and stand for truth. And beside her, a human whose arms had given her peace and safety, she found love. Quiet, steady, and unshakable. The galaxy had tried to break her. It had failed. And now, for the first time, Leora knew that she had everything she needed. Not a throne, not armies, not even power. But trust, courage, and the right companion at her side. She closed her eyes, letting the stars shine across her face. She had fallen, yes, but she had risen stronger than before, and this time she would not be alone. Ethan's hand tightened over hers, grounding her in the moment. Together, they faced the endless possibilities ahead, unafraid, unstoppable, and finally free. The galaxy waited, vast and uncertain, but for Leora and Ethan, it was a canvas. They would paint their own story across it, one of hope, courage, and the undeniable strength of two who chose to stand together, no matter the odds. And in that quiet, drifting through the endless stars, Leora smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in years. She had been betrayed, exiled, hunted, and tested. But she had survived. She had found solace. She had found love. She had found herself. And nothing, not even the vastness of space or the betrayals of the past, could take that away. Her story, once meant to end in shadow, now stretched forward like the stars before her, endless, bright, and hers to claim.